Welcome to What's New. Didn't see we were on, so that's why I'm holding my head up. Sorry about that. Okay, before we start with Kathy, we've got a few announcements of, there's so much going on in town today. I think you should really probably go to St. Jen
The event page
on
on Facebook, and you can also download the application, which is our tourism application
Right.
from the Play Store for Android and from the Apple Store for iPhones. And there are things listed there too, and there's
Right.
just a whole lot
And on
going on.
Facebook, mostly if you kind of go to the middle there and scroll sideways, it's got everything listed. So you can do it one of three ways, I guess. So we've got the Pumpkin Glow that's down at Main Street Park. They're carving pumpkins. All the pumpkins are furnished.
Let me
And
add
that's
to
on
that.
Friday the 24th,
That's Friday the 24th from 6 to 8.
6 to 9,
And
it says.
the art walk is also on Friday, the 24th, from 6 to 9. And 5 of the art spaces that are involved in the art walk are on the 100 block of North Main, or very near to that. And that's right in the territory where the Main Street Park is, where the Pumpkin Glow will be.
Right, but don't forget to go uptown to the other places because there's a lot of art places up that way too.
The Art Guild has that wonderful exhibit
Yeah,
with the Sister Cassiana and Matt Ziegler and Dolly DeFore and Silver Sycamore has a whole lot of new jewelry. They're getting their shop for Christmas stuff going early. It's going to be a good art walk, and the Pumpkin Glow, which is sponsored by the City Park Department, is going to be really a fun thing.
yep. Okay, and then on Saturday, the Living History is again at 10 a.m. Spirit reunions 4 to 7 this year instead of later. They're want to get in a little bit more light. Trunk or treat at 2 o'clock at Kiefer Street. First Presbyterian Church has a book sale and bake sale from 9 to 3. Rural Heritage Day starts at 10 up in the city. The final farmers market is this weekend. Opens at 7 a.m. And then there's a 2025 Fall Foliage Tour. You meet out at Phillips 66 at the intersection of 32 and 55 at 8:30 if you want to go on that. And then I guess the Christmas corner is also what Presbyterian Church is called.
Yeah.
And then on Sunday,
There's one more thing on Saturday,
what's that?
and that's the fundraiser for the
That's
library.
right. The fundraiser for the library.
Nosferatu, a wonderful original silent film, and they've hired an orchestra to play the music behind it, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
And that starts at 6:30.
I think so.
Or 8.
You do have to have tickets for that. You can go to on Facebook to the library site or Friends of the Library, and it'll direct you to where you can order the tickets.
Right. And I wish they would sell them at the place too. But
Yeah,
I don't know if they're going to or not.
Seen anything that indicates that they're going to.
But I wish they would. So there's a hike on Sunday with Laura Leichenpold. It's 15 is all that can go. It's you're going to look for rocks out at Pickle Springs. So that ought to be fun for those that like to hike. And you have to sign up, and you can go to https://mossesofmissouri.com and then BRYOPHYTE and then hyphen hikes 1 or /, not 1. Okay. Then on the 31st, they have the Candy Crip at Rozier Country Mart from 5 to 8. November the 1st, the Beer Garden down at the Audubon with Josh Driscoll from 6:30 to 9:30. And then Parallel Parts, it's a walk at 10 a.m. from 10 to 11 downtown and talk about two sides to every story. So that'll be interesting. And the Audubon has Crossroads from the 24th at 6:30, and the Elks Poker Run is, there's so much going on.
I keep flipping over, there's more and more.
Yeah. Almost down to the bottom. Okay, the Elks Poker Run is register at 10, right at 11, and be back by 4. So that's at the Elks Club. And then the Art Walk, said that already. Yeah. And Danny's is having Halloween weekend, I guess it is, the 24th and the 25th from 8 to 12. So you can go down to Danny's and
Pecan Palooza is on November 2nd. And the Cookie Crumble Walk is on November 8th.
So there's so much going on in town.
And you know what today is? Today is National Women-Owned Business Day. That's what today is. And there's an amazing number of businesses in St. Louis that are owned by women.
Well, in St. Genevieve.
I'm sorry, I meant St. Genevieve.
I was going to say, I thought I saw a picture of you somewhere, and they were highlighting that you were a business owner, and that was something about the National Business
I didn't
Women.
see that, and I didn't mention this because of that. I didn't even see it.
So we have.
I saw a picture of you somewhere showing your artwork off, and it said it was National
It was on
Business Women's
Facebook.
Day.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Okay, I guess I'll
You're
look for
famous
it.
and didn't even know it.
So we have lots and lots going on around St. Genevieve. Just look on Facebook, talk to your friends, see who knows what, because you can be busy all weekend. From Friday all the way up till Sunday evening. So
Yeah. Good
don't
stuff.
say there's nothing to do in St. Gen.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, that used to be one of Marianne Otto's when we first started this show in 2011 until she got sick. That was her ending thing every night. If you can't find anything to do in St. John, you are not looking.
Yeah.
So now we have Kathy Kreitler, and she's going to tell you all about the
Domestic violence in St. Genevieve.
right.
Which is nothing like what we've been talking about. It's a serious issue, and
It's a serious issue, yeah.
Yeah.
It's a serious issue, but we don't have to make it a Debbie Downer.
So Kathy has always got something interesting to tell us, so she can talk and talk and talk. So
Yes, I can.
you can start anytime you want.
What was I going to say? Something about with the domestic violence being so serious. I just lost my thought. That's not a good thing. We just are starting. Anyway. So I wanted to let everybody know that I do, I provide domestic violence services in St. Genevieve under the St. Genevieve County Community Services Forum, which the forum is a conglomeration of anyone who services St. Genevieve citizens. So that includes everything from like the city and county government to like the police and law enforcement, I should say, and the fire department, the school district, ambulance, yeah. But it also has like nursing agencies, the job center. You guys can chime in. And
schools are usually
the school's represented. I'm trying to think of who the community counseling's always there. The YMCA's been coming to our meetings now. Just anybody who services. We have like several pregnancy, newborn services and things like that come to our monthly meetings. Gibson Center comes almost every single month. Yeah.
Are they going to move their meetings back out to the health department, or are they going to stay
right now
at the community center?
I asked at that meeting we had that the commissioners had, and they said we were going to stay there. So
so you're staying at the community center?
Right. So hopefully, I mean, in that meeting they said we were going to stay there because that was one of the questions that I had, because we also I started doing the CIT training, which is crisis intervention training. Well, the crisis intervention team, but I'm doing the training now. They're offering it in Perryville. And I was in the sequential intercept mapping there was a mapping done across the state with all the jurisdictions, court jurisdictions. So I went to that, and during that, I was appointed on the CIT committee to bring Laura Bailey. Hi, Laura. Henneman and I are from St. Genevieve. We're the two from St. Genevieve that are on that committee to bring CIT to St. Genevieve. We Zoom it in, and then we have a meeting, and that's the reason I'm saying all that is we have that at the sports complex too.
Oh, okay.
So any of the first responders and law enforcement that want to, instead of driving an hour to Cape, go into a meeting that's an hour and a half long and then drive it an hour back, we're Zooming it in. There's other satellite communities that have the Zoomed in CIT meeting. So I was appointed to that committee, and then there's 2 probation and parole and 2 communities counseling people. So there's 6 of us on that committee, and we're Zooming that into the sports complex. And I asked about those 2 meetings, and they said that we would keep those there.
Keep them.
The number
So
of
that's great.
organizations that are represented in that group suggests that what you're talking about, domestic violence, is a really complicated problem. Of course, that group addresses lots of kinds of things, but
The
how
community
big a
service.
problem is
Well, the Community Services Forum is anybody who services
Right.
St. John. So all of those, the people who come to those, the agencies that come to them, all service. But domestic violence, they are my board. I'm under their umbrella as a 501c3. The other agencies are independently standing on their own. And I don't know if you guys remember Resources to Recovery, which you don't have to remember them, they're active. But when they started is what I meant when I said remember.
Yeah.
When they started, they were under the 501c3 umbrella of the Community Services Forum, which is where I'm at now. And then they got their board and they're independent now. So that's I'm still under their umbrella, but I am working on a board. We actually had a board that had meetings, but that didn't stay, but we're going to get there. But anyway, so the Resources to Recovery was under that umbrella, and I'm still under their umbrella for the 501c3. So that's how I function, is under their umbrella.
does your, I'm not going to call it an organization because I'm not sure how big it is. The services that you provide, is there a name that's?
Well, we're just going by the Domestic Violence Services of St. Genevieve through the Community Services Forum. But I did want to say, since we're talking about the forum, so we're affiliate members. The Domestic Violence Services in St. Genevieve are affiliate members of the Missouri Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. And that's kind of like, if you want to think about it, like maybe a step lower than what a shelter is. So we don't have a board, and we're not a shelter, but we're like right under it. So I go to the regional meetings, which all the executive directors and stuff of the shelters go, and sometimes they bring their staff, but I go to those regional meetings, and then I have the coalition manager, which I have people who are part of the forum, and then advocates or anything that I have, I can put them onto the coalition manager, and then they can get free professional level trainings. They call them vault trainings. So that's because we're at that higher vault level training, and like law enforcement and stuff, they can have the trainings. And, there's people that are in the forum who deal with people in the public who could be or are domestic violence clients or, survivors. And so they can take those professional level trainings too.
This is a very complicated system that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm very grateful that we have that here. But how much need is there here? How big a problem is domestic violence here?
I feel like it's a big problem. I mean, I don't want to say it's any worse than any other community. Don't misunderstand me when I say it's a big problem. I think it's a big problem everywhere. And I don't want to be quoted, but I think law enforcement make a lot of calls on it. And I think it's time consuming, and it's also a dangerous call for law enforcement to go to, because it's a passionate crime.
For sure.
It's a passionate crime. So that's why it's a little more dangerous too. So
Tell us about, everybody knows that domestic violence exists. And if you watch television, you see TV shows about it and things like that. But what is it really about?
domestic violence is about power and control.
Talk more about that.
That's what she talks about.
So I got the power and control wheel there. I left the good one out in my car. But anytime there's like, when you're in a healthy relationship, things are equal. So you say what you want to say, and your partner says what they want to say, and you both listen to each other, and there's a mutual respect, and everything's kind of equal. When you're in a domestic abuse type situation, that's when someone is overpowering, and I didn't think that would say, they want like power and control. They want to control you. So if somebody's over dominant, and they're like not listening to you, they're not letting you voice your opinion or something like that, then that's kind of controlling the situation. So that can be an abusive behavior. And in a domestic abuse type situation, you see that where somebody can't voice their opinion. And domestic abuse, to me, domestic violence is when you're afraid to do something because you're afraid of the repercussions that you might have, and it may involve violence, like physical violence, right. So domestic violence doesn't have to be physical violence. The emotional violence, is often more harmful than the physical violence, because every victim I've ever talked to, they all say the emotional is so much harder to get over than the physical. Because like physical violence, I had an IV, that's what this is. But if you get a bruise, you don't have to do anything, and the bruise goes away. But you can say, this is how bad I was hurt, and it could be big or it can be little or whatever, but this is how bad I was hurt, and it'll go away all on its own. But the emotional abuse or the emotional violence that happens to your brain is injured, that doesn't go away, and you can't measure it either. You can't show somebody, this is how bad I was hurt when you said those words to me, or when you threatened me, or when I was afraid to go outside because of what you would do if I went outside. So you can't measure that, and the only way for that to heal is for you to talk about it and to express yourself, and for that to be validated, which a lot of times that's done through counseling, but it doesn't have to be like a professional counselor. It can be your clergy. It can even be your friend or somebody that'll understand you.
Yeah.
But professional counselors are wonderful. I do promote those. I'm not going against professional counselors, but it doesn't have to be a counselor. You should seek someone if you feel like, you've been hurt. Then seek someone out.
In a case of physical violence, that means that maybe the neighbors will call the police. Maybe someone will notice that someone is consistently has bruises or a black eye. But how can we help figure out when someone is suffering the kind of just verbal abuse, the meanness, the threats, and how can we reach out to someone if we think that's going on?
All you can do is be there and let them know that you're a safe person to talk to, and they probably don't want to acknowledge that it's happening, but if you let them know that you're there and you're safe, for them to talk to, and be there, and maybe just like a nod of your head, or like, I know, or because they'll be exasperated, and they might come in late or something because they had something happen at home before they get there, and you can just kind of give them a nod, like, yeah, I kind of figure what, and not push on them, because that's one thing with domestic violence. Last time I was here, that's one thing Courtney said, is my family tells me all the time what I should do. She goes, but Kathy doesn't tell me ever.
Right. Just
because
suggestions.
they're not gonna change. They're not going to change their situation until they're ready to change. And you can harp on them all you want, and the decisions you and I would make in that situation are not necessarily the decisions they're making, because they have a different knowledge of the situation than what you or I have. That's why they're not making the decisions you or I make. But anyway, you have to wait till they're ready to move on that with their rationale of their understanding of their situation. So just to be there. And then another thing I'm thinking of with that question is, it gets really annoying to a lot of people when they just stay with the same person that keeps hurting them, and you're like, why are you staying? And you kind of get annoyed with it, and you just want to say, forget it. I'm not going to help her anymore because she just stays. That's the worst thing you can do, because think about it. When you're not there for her to talk to or call, that makes her more dependent on that person. and she has one less person that she can talk to, so she's more dependent on the person who's abusing her. So the best thing you can do is just to be there for her and let her know that she can always call you, or he can always call you.
Let's say you have a friend and you think that maybe there's something. What are some of the signs that you might pick up on?
No.
Are there any?
Are there any signs? Well, you can look at like the relationship between, the relationship that they have, because that's one thing with the CIT classes we were going through, that I was wanting to, we were talking about with, law enforcement, what they can pick up on, like with kids. Kids have my heart. You can, with the child, you can see how they're relating to like their parents, because you see some kids that run up to their parents and hug them, or they'll talk to them, or they'll have a good rapport with them. And then other families, you might see where the kids don't necessarily even go to their parents when they win win the first prize or something, so if you look at the family dynamic and things and pick up on stuff like that is good. But you can also pick up on that in public with couples, on how they relate to each other. Are they timid around each other? Are they relaxed and kind of laughing and all that? Or are they like, oh, I don't want to do that wrong? Or, something like, kind of pick up on their rapport if you're suspicious of something. So
And
it'll be the little things you'll pick up on.
Okay.
Just, if you kind of get a feeling when you see people relate.
yeah.
Because if it's a friend, you kind of know her or him. Yeah, I say her because most victims are female, but they can be male too.
What's the ratio? Do you know just offhand?
It's 1 to 7 men are victims of domestic violence, and 1 in 4 women.
Yeah.
So
1 in 4. That's very high.
well, some studies are 1 in 3.
Wow.
It depends on what study.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be in your domestic violence paper I sent you.
Okay.
It'll be toward the top, but if you want to look it up. But our statistics for St. John City and County are very close, the numbers and stuff, and about a third of our victims are men.
Wow.
Yeah, so I know where your minds went. You thought the women were beating up on the men. But actually, domestic violence, domestic means domicile, which is home. So in the home, there's actually more people than just spouses. There's kids. Sometimes there's elderly parents. There could be disabled family members that are staying there. So domestic means home, not necessarily. There's intimate partner violence is what we call it in domestic violence world.
Yes.
There's intimate partner, which is like husband, wife kind of thing. But then there's domestic violence, which is part of domestic violence. But then there's also everybody in the household is also considered domestic. So a lot of the male abuse is done by other family members, not necessarily just the intimate partner. That's surprising. Huh?
No, I just let Kathy talk because
Okay.
she's
I
good
can
at
talk
what
really
she,
good,
yeah,
can't I?
she does.
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
She puts out a lot of information.
I talk.
So, what services are actually available? Let's say it's a situation where the nothing has helped.
Well, I kind of made a paperwork thing here. I thought I'd run through. So, I was looking at my other video that I made with Courtney, and I had said if they buy a dozen roses and take you on a trip, then that's not a good sign. And what I mean to say is if they are overly abundantly overcompensating. It's not. If somebody buys you a dozen roses, you got a good guy there. There is nothing wrong with somebody buying you a dozen roses. Right. What I meant to say is if they're just constantly overcompensating because they don't feel like you would fall in love with them, they have to puff it up. They have to buy you more things and take you on trips and just be over and above what an average person would be because they don't feel like by themselves they're attractive enough to you for you to want to be with them. So they have to give you so much more. That's what I meant to say. Not that a dozen roses is a bad thing.
But does that overcompensation also sometimes serve to make the female partner, because it's usually a female partner, feel like I owe him so much? He's so good to me when he's not mean to me.
It
Those
could be
kinds
that,
of
but
things.
there's the abuse cycle, which I don't have a picture of, but the abuse cycle just keeps going round and round, and it could take a week to go around, or it could take 5 or 10 years to go around.
Tell us about the
But it
abuse
just
cycle.
keeps going around and round. So when you fall in love with somebody, you get love bombed in an abusive situation. Okay, so you get 5 dozen roses, not just 1 dozen, and they'll take you on an extravagant trip, and it's like constantly they give you all this beautiful jewelry, and just overcompensating. However they do it, and some people maybe they don't ever get any attention shown to them. So maybe if they just take you out to eat, that's more than that person's ever had. And maybe that's love bombing for that particular person. But what it is you get shown so much more by this person. And then you're just like, oh, I'm just so special. He calls me every 5 minutes, which when you're in love, you're like, oh, every 5 minutes, But realistically, that's annoying. But anyway, when you're in love, when it's new in the relationship, you just think it's wonderful. So then after that love bombing goes on, then you're kind of settled into your relationship and things are kind of settling down, but kind of he gets on your nerves or you get on his nerves, but he might start doing things like everything from maybe he doesn't like the way you wear your hair, or he'll say that joke wasn't funny. Why did you even say that joke? And nobody laughed at it. And it kind of hurts your feelings, and you just kind of, it makes you insecure. And he just kind of says that, and it's just like negative. And then it just gets,
I wish you'd learn to cook.
yeah. My example is burning supper. I always tell this one, but like you might be helping the kids with the homework and you're trying to set the table and you're vacuuming the floor. You got all this going on and you're cooking supper and he's playing video games, not doing anything, but you're doing all these 5, 6 things at one time and supper burns. And then he's like, well, you can't even cook supper and you let it burn. It's like, yeah, you did let supper burn, but you had 5 or 6 things going on. Anybody would have burned supper in that situation, but you're made out to be a bad person, incompetent, unable to cook supper. You can cook supper, you just can't do 16 things at one time. And he's playing video games anyway. He should be helping you. But it's that, making you feel bad. So you get pushed down to a certain point where you just kind of fight back or there's like an explosion. And when I say explosion, I mean, it could be a knockdown, drag out fight. It might just be a verbal spat, or it might just be a snide remark that just is enough for the two of you to kind of have a shift. And you're just like, oh, we're separating a little bit. And that could just be just a little separate where one's in the kitchen, one's in the living room. It could be a breakup where you don't talk for 6 months, live in different places. But there's a shift, and then you go back to the love bombing.
Do women always recognize that shift, or do they take personal responsibility for all this stuff that this guy is saying to
Well,
them?
the shift is like the explosion is what we call it, but it doesn't have to be an explosion is what I meant by shift. I mean, there's just something happens and it's not the same as it was, and it causes a change in the relationship. They call it an explosion, but it could be just a little thing. But the degrading thing, people a lot of times don't realize is going on until it could be 5 or 10 or 20 years down the road, depending on the situation, because you want to rationalize that you're not in the situation you're in, if that makes sense. Like, he can't really be that bad. I keep saying he, but it can't really be that bad. It's because of this. It's because of that this is happening this way.
You can keep saying he because men are more often the abusers. And in addition to that, isn't the pattern a bit different when it is either a male abusing other males or a male abusing, say, an elderly father who's living in the home?
I do have wheels on that. We have a lot of wheels.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that one of the questions that I have is women who find themselves in that kind of situation, it seems to me, and I told you this, but and I don't know if you know this or not. I used to be a social worker, and so I dealt with abused families in which abuse was occurring, and it often was a situation where the woman really didn't define what was happening as abuse, but as something that she deserved because she did burn dinner, you know?
Right.
And isn't that really hard to address when you're trying to provide services to somebody when they may not even be sure that they deserve them?
Well, that's a big, I try to bring a lot of education. I try to bring education because it's easier to say that I did something wrong than to say somebody did something to me. Because it's kind of like a mom, she would take more, like you'd rather sacrifice yourself and work really hard and let your kids have an easier way to go. But if somebody hurts your kids, you're like, oh, mama bear. You know, so it's easier for someone to say I did something wrong than to say they did something wrong. Because they're a reflection, especially women who, as women, we have a lot of pressure to have like the perfect house and the perfect family. And, you know, you want your husband to look good. So you buy the good clothes and you make him, no, you're going to wear the yellow jacket. Please wear the yellow jacket. You know, it's a dress up. Don't just wear a t-shirt, wear the jacket. You know, so it's kind of a reflection on them too. So they don't, as women, we don't want to think that we made a bad choice. You know, we want them to look good too. So we would rather take it on that we did something wrong. Do you understand what I'm trying to
Yes,
say?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's easier for us to take on that we did something wrong than to say they did something.
So women assume responsibility for the situation, even if they are the one who didn't really do anything wrong.
But that subconsciously, they don't want to admit they
Right.
did something wrong. They're not saying in their brain that I know I didn't do this wrong. They're not saying that. They're accepting that they must have done it
They
wrong.
must have done it wrong.
Yeah,
Whether or
'cause-
not they did.
Because they don't want to acknowledge that, even to themselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have I'm not going to say an older lady. I'm going to say a lady about my age who's been getting her eyes opened.
We're older ladies. You're a young.
No, you guys. She's my Girl Scout leader, so I can't say she's my age, but yeah, a lady that's about my age, and she's just, since she's been working with me, she's just like, I'm learning so much. She goes, why did I not see this? And I said, you're raising your kids and you're just trying to make it work, you know, and she might come on next time. But, you know, you're just trying to make it work, and you're busy raising your kids, and you don't really have time to, you
And
know,
another
take
thing
in
I think
everything with you.
is they have this feeling of what am I going to do if I'm alone? So talk about that because you're so good at that. Yeah.
I'm good at that too.
Yeah, you
I
are.
made an
Yeah.
impression on Iris when I was here last time, didn't
Yeah,
I?
you did. I mean, both times you've been here, you
Yeah.
had so much information that people don't even realize or know about.
Yeah.
And I think it's good for
I just do
It
it.
to get
it
out.
just comes natural. Because I said my history and stuff last time I was here, but I did 8 years down in Cape. Sounds like a prison sentence, but I had 8 years experience down in Cape before I come up here, and I'm coming up on 9 years doing it in St. John. And I basically brought Cape's program up here to St. John. Their trauma specialist down there kind of helped me, pushed me into moving it up here. And then a commissioner, Gary Nelson, and Sandra Bell pushed me on this end to start this, and I'm like, ugh. And I don't do anything halfway. If I jump in, I'm going. I can't do anything
good.
halfway, but anyway.
and people have to really trust you to be open to you.
Yeah.
And that's another good quality that you have.
Yeah.
They know
yeah.
you're not going to run around.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No, and that's what I tell some of my clients. I'm like, honestly, I can't talk to anybody. Please sign this release. They're like, yeah, I'll sign it. I want you to do that. And it's like, okay, I can't really, I can't talk to nobody. Yeah, it's kind of funny, but what was I going to say? Anyway, what was the question on the table? I forget. I was going to run through what happens when somebody calls me.
Yeah.
'Cause
Do that.
I actually had a call today, but anyway, so I'm one person and I offer peer support. So I'm not like I'm definitely a qualified counselor, peer counselor. I'll have people argue if I don't say that. But, so on the business cards, I say that we have confidential, it's always confidential and can be anonymous. So there's my business cards. I don't know if that says it on there or not. But, yeah, at the bottom, it says, can be anonymous, always confidential. And the things,
Before you go on, Charlie, can you get a picture of that?
it's on the USB.
He's got it on the table.
Okay, very good. This is an incredibly cheerful business card. The colors are bright, and this is the kind of business card that you don't expect for a service of the kind that you provide, which suggests to me at least that there's hope.
Oh, yeah, yeah. That's, you just reminded me of what, so when I did the rally the first year, I was actually told not to put domestic violence on my flyer because nobody likes domestic violence. And I'm like, what? Because I came from Cape, and Cape domestic violence is like popular because they have a big, I think they had $187,000 they raised their last year or something at Vintage Now, their fundraiser. But anyway,
And I think we have
they're
a-
real popular down. Domestic violence is not anything you whisper down in Cape.
A component, I think a component of their social work program at the university deals with domestic violence as well down there, which
Yeah.
helps.
Yeah, so I'm just like, I say domestic violence like it's no big deal, but they're like, don't put it on the flyer. Nobody will come if it's domestic violence. But anyway, this year we put it bigger.
Good for you.
Yeah, so anyway, I forgot what I was going to say. Now I remembered it and I forgot.
I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, you're fine.
You were going to talk about what happens when somebody.
Yeah, when somebody
comes in.
calls. So I kind of made up an outline. So in what I can do anonymously is the peer counseling. So when I get a phone call, I do like initial peer counseling, and then I also do a lot of referrals. Even though it's just me, I have a lot of personal connections with people. And the way I think about it is I'm kind of like the little sister to like the Missouri Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. They all know me and they'll talk to me. I just have to tell them I'm Kathy, and they all know me. And different other organizations that are like state level, they just like they'll take my phone calls, and it always amazes me that they answer the phone as big as they are, important they are. But I just think they think of me as, because we have kind of a desert here in St. John as far as domestic violence, and they want our citizens to get help and stuff. So I think that's why they kind of take me under their shoulder. But yeah.
That's good.
It kind of cracks me up sometimes how much they like me and everything, but it's because I offer services, and then I use them as a sounding board too for them to help me and make sure I'm on the right track and everything, and so that's how I know that I'm doing right by everybody, that I'm doing things the right way and offering the right things to our citizens or whatever. So anyway, those are the referrals that I do. So I can do peer counseling and referrals anonymously, but if I actually get into the meat of providing services, then I do have to have their name. But I have done just peer counseling, and there's actually one person in my phone that I have in by the number of kids she has, because she never did give me her name. But I can text too, so if they don't want to call, they can text, which that's a lot of shelters do that too. And then there's a digital business card on this, which Charlie can highlight on there. And the digital business card has all the shelters' websites on there at the top. And it also has like the law enforcement on there and the hospital and different local websites and stuff on there. The coalition's on there too for domestic violence. And some trainings I've done are all on that digital business card. So that's what's on the back of this. So anyway, so in person, I've been doing a lot of court appearances with my clients, which is, they really appreciate. So
I bet.
yeah, because, and I'm not an attorney, because some of them tell me I'm better than their attorney, and I'm like,
Don't say that.
your attorney takes care of the legal stuff. I said, you think I'm better because I'm taking care of you, and I'm sitting with you, and I'm helping you deal with the emotional part of it. your attorney's the legal. But they're like, well, we like you more than our attorney. I am not an attorney, but I do go to court with them, and I'm just there for emotional support and things like that. Yeah, I'm not an attorney, and I'm not better than an attorney. There's two
But you
different,
do have
different
contacts
things.
in the legal system, which can connect people
Yeah.
with an attorney.
Well,
You can make referrals, that kind of thing.
well, I do the legal aid. I
Yes.
help them with legal aid. Yeah, that's one of the things that I do is, I got it written down here, is I help them with the legal aid application. So with being a domestic violence victim, that's one of the highlighted things that kind of get you in the door if you're a domestic violence victim.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I definitely help them with those applications. Yeah. So I do the court appearances, and then I do applications like in person. Like sometimes I just like am there with them, because with domestic violence, an abuser will take like little pieces away from them, like they'll criticize their clothes or the way they talk or the way they walk, or just
You're stupid.
they just take little bites away until they're just a shell of the person they used to be. So they're very insecure. Sometimes they don't even want to make decisions as to like what they get to eat or when they can, I use the pajama example. I had one client one time that couldn't wear pajamas out of the bedroom. And it's like, they can't even make decisions on their own. So whenever I get them, sometimes just sitting with them and helping them fill out an application online is needed, because they're so insecure. They're like, I can't do it. I can't do that application online. So sometimes it's just sitting with them while they do it. So we do like housing applications, job applications. I help with legal aid and other social service things like the SNAP, the food assistance and Medicaid, and then the Safe at Home program, which I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
No.
But so if they're avoiding their abuser, if he's stalking or something like that, they have a Safe at Home program with Missouri. So when you enter the program, they give you an address, and then you put all of your things into the Jefferson City address that they give you. And so if you get any paperwork or anything that comes to you, it goes to that Jefferson City address, and then they send it to an address that you give them that's different from where you're actually living.
So it masks where the
Right.
person actually is.
Right, right. So, if you go to work, you're going to live in some place in Jefferson City. Your mail's going to go to Jefferson City, and then they put it to where you actually are. So it's a way to hide where you're at. So if anybody gets a hold of your paperwork or something, they won't know where you're at if your abuser
I can
would.
see that working beautifully in a big city. Not so much in a town like ours, where everybody knows where everybody goes to the grocery store. And
It.
is it harder here?
I don't think so, because if the people who love you know what's going on, which you're going to tell them, they're going to know when you're moving and where you're moving to, and you're not going to broadcast it because you want to be away from your abuser. And that reminds me, I've had people talk to me about not having a shelter in St. Genevieve because the abusers live in St. Genevieve too. Every place that has a shelter has abusers that live in that area.
Sure.
That is the silliest thing I've ever heard. And whenever I hear it, I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So the people that go to the Bonne Terre shelter, their abusers live in the Bonne Terre area. And the people from Perryville, their abusers, for the most part, live in Perryville. So, I mean, and the thing of it is, when you go to a shelter, you're not going to broadcast where the shelter is because you've
Right.
been there, done that, and you don't want people to know where it is. So the people that go there kind of have a pact. But like, I think the Bonne Terre shelter is the only one that I've heard of that advertises where it's at. They don't make any secrets about it. But the other shelters kind of keep it on the down low. And in fact, Cape, you have to go to the police station, and then the police station takes you to the shelter.
So Perryville, I understand, has a shelter, and Festus has a shelter, so that if there is a victim of domestic violence in this community who really needs to get out of the community because the whole family of the guy who's doing the abuse is implicated.
I like to say our shelter system is like the Underground Railroad.
Okay.
Yeah, so my experience with it is they can have somebody, say from California, and they're abusers. Some of these people will not give up.
Yeah.
And they will follow their person all over the United States, probably further. But one of my earlier clients was actually from Arizona, and she came to me through Illinois. And she lived in our community probably over a year. And then last I heard, she was in Florida. So, I mean, some of these get followed. So they will move the people within the shelter system, state to state, or however it needs to be. So if there's something going on and the shelter feels that that person is not safe where they're at, then they will definitely move them. There's no problem with that. But for the most part, they're going to be safe at the shelter that they're in. And if there's a question, they will definitely move them. Safety is our utmost importance, definitely. But we also have to remember another topic that comes up with that is we do have a court system and we do have law enforcement officers.
Yeah, I was going to ask about your relationship with law enforcement and what kind of training do law enforcement officers in this community, the city and the county get, if any, to deal with domestic violence cases? Or do they, and I can see how they would just rely on you, but sometimes they may have to go someplace where they haven't had a chance to talk to you first to go into a situation.
The Law Enforcement Academy does do some training, like with CIT and stuff. I think they did cut that back, though, the last year or two. I think. I can't talk on it professionally. I don't know exactly, but I think they did cut it back from what I heard this week down at the CIT training in Perryville. But I did give both the Sheriff's Department and the Police Department 4 trainings that were worth 1 post credit each, which is police officers, they're like the CEUs that they need. Yeah. So those are free post credits, so they don't have to pay for the educational credit. They do have to pay when the officers are taking the 1-hour course. It's a 1 hour for 1 post credit, and there's 4.
So there is training being provided through you primarily
It's
to
through
our local law enforcement.
Well, it's the Missouri Coalition Against Domestic and Sexual Violence. They have it for law enforcement. It's specifically made for law enforcement, and there's 4 different classes, and they're an hour each. So, and they were offered to both city and the county. But
that doesn't sound like enough. An hour doesn't.
Well,
It sound like enough to
you have to talk
I'm sorry, but
you have to
does that sound like enough to you? 1 hour
You'll
to
have to talk
understand.
to law enforcement, but Chief Halleck talks to me and stuff, and his officers they talk to me. I live in the city, so that's why I talk to them the most. But yeah, they've been really good and really responsive, and we've actually had them. I have a weekly meeting, and we've actually had them come to our meeting once.
Good.
And it was really good. They're very receptive and they're very supportive. And like I said, we have law enforcement officers and we have a court system. So if there is any danger, if the courts feel that this person could be in danger, they have orders of protection, and that's backed up by law enforcement, is more than happy to enforce our laws. And so we can use those things. I mean, we don't have to be afraid. And I mean, I tell my people, read that order of protection. That says that they stay away from you, not that you hide in your house afraid of them. So, I mean, I do some empowerment too on my people.
In this county, in the city, the police department is, 5 minutes away, most places in town. The sheriff's department is based here. I know our deputies do get out in their cars. I know that they're moving around in the county. But somebody who lives out on Double D, who finds herself in a situation that is a classic domestic violence situation, boy, what happens there?
I don't know what you mean. What do you mean what happens there?
Well, even if she is able to call law enforcement, it takes a while for them to get there.
Yeah, but that's county living. What if she has a heart attack? It takes a
The
while.
same thing, yeah, yeah,
That's county living.
okay, okay.
I don't mean to be difficult, but
Well, it's not difficult, it's just, it just seems like maybe we should be working on that somehow, I'm not sure how.
yeah.
Has anybody thought about training fire departments to do some proactive things when it comes to domestic violence?
Well, I'll do education. Yeah. A lot of domestic violence is having the person want to accept help.
Sure.
So when they're ready to accept help, there's help there. So
Okay.
that's kind of a big hiccup, I think.
Okay.
So, but yeah, if she has, if the survivor, I call them a victim until they decide that they want to change, and it might take them a long time to follow through with all the changes that need to be done. But once they decide to make the change, then I call them a survivor. So once they become a survivor, they can be living independently and violence-free, and their abuser can come up on their door even after they've decided to live violence-free. But if they're in the county, it's just going to take time to get there. Like with anything, if you live in the county,
Yeah. Okay.
that's county living.
I'm sorry, I got you off track.
But yeah, anyway, so with the in-person, I do the court appearances, the applications. We have a weekly meeting, and that's going really well. The most I've had at my meeting is 5 girls. And then we've been running about 3. So that's really good for St. Genevieve because I can't tell them who's going to be there. And so when they walk in that first time, you don't know who you're going to see or who's going to see you. But we kind of have a rule, and it's respected by everybody in the group because they want their privacy respected, so you respect. And they have more than a friendship, but they really lean on each other and they learn so much from each other. And I've taught them a lot, but they laugh because they already know this, but one of them was bringing something up, and I told the other one, I said, okay, what are you going to tell her? And she told the other one, and I'm just like, yes. That's when you know you're doing good, when they can help each other out like that. So they're getting a lot of support from each other, and they're getting a lot of strength from each other. And that's what the support group is all about. And then they can hear that they're not the only one in that situation. So it's doing really good. So
That's good.
yeah. And to have 5 is good because like Cape will do 8 to 12. And they're kind of a big city with a nice size shelter. So sometimes they'll do more though. When I was going down there, I don't know what they're doing recently, but yeah, so that was pretty good.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so, but anyway, and then the referrals, I do a lot of referrals. And then I have a lot of information when I work with somebody. So whenever I get a phone call, I'll do like a crisis intervention. So whenever I get a phone call, I find out what they need. So like what's important to them. And the first thing that is important is for them to be safe. Now their definition of safe and my definition of safe might be different because they are the expert in their situation. So an example that I had is like if somebody was like, I've had somebody before that's like in an area that you want to call the police. I've had somebody tell me that you call the police and let them go in there and save her and, all this. No, she knows what's safe. And like, if we would say we would call the police and they go in there and rescue her and take her away, she still has to deal with that situation. And the price might be heavier, when she would return, because if she's not ready to stay gone, and she does return, then the price might be even higher to pay. So she knows where she's safe, and if the police show up, if it would be a harder price to pay. So she knows where she's safe, and she knows what she can do and what she can't do. She knows her situation. She's the expert in her situation. So I work with them on safety planning, and then like where's safe for you, and then an exit plan. If something would happen, what are you going to do? And she works through that and gets what she's going to do. I don't know what she's going to do. I don't know what her exit plan would be, but we talk about what it would be. will she go to her mom's or her sisters or her friends, or how is she going to get there? Things like that. So we talk out like an exit plan if it has to happen, but a safety
And if it
plan.
involves children, how they
Right.
fit in.
Right. A safety and an exit plan. And then I always make sure that they have food and clothing, hygiene items, and shelter right then and there during like the crisis period. Like if they need a hotel room, or, a shelter is the ideal place to be, because of course you get shelter, but you also have protection and everything within the shelter. Plus you get education, and you get the counselors and everything. I mean, it's kind of like a hospital.
And
for
sharing
domestic violence.
experience with other victims.
Right. A shelter is kind of like a hospital would be for a patient, so shelters are always the best thing. But the problem with St. Genevieve people and shelters is, to use a shelter correctly, they transplant you into that community. So they find you a job in that community, your kids go to that school. They have to give up their friends in St. John. They have to have friends over there. Their band and their extracurriculars are all moved over there. And a lot of people anywhere, but in St. John, they might work 10 or 15 or 20 years. We have a lot of professionals being abused too, that have built up their seniority, and they have to leave all that behind to work in another community, or they have to commute, but their families are in St. Genevieve, so they don't have the support to pick up the kids from school and all that kind of business. So that's really why St. Genevieve people aren't getting the domestic violence services they could if we had a shelter in town. Because they want to use a shelter, you have to be transplanted into that community, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So anyway, I make sure that they have the food, clothing, hygiene, and shelter in the crisis, emergency, whatever they need. But no, I always promote shelters. I mean, that would be ideal, but that's the hiccup with them going to that. And then longer term, getting them housing and food and transportation. Because even if they want a shelter, we have to find a bed, which is always an ordeal. Beds are very hard to find. I should have brought my numbers, but I can't remember how many. A large amount of beds are not available when they call. They just don't have the beds available. And then transportation is a big issue for us, because even if we find a bed, they only hold it for 24 hours. So we don't have transportation. So with the rally, I have money. So I can have like an Uber from another town come and pick them up and then take them back. But then you have to get that within 24 hours, or they don't save the bed any further. So it's not as easy as just, I'll just go get a shelter bed.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's more complicated. So I do the crisis intervention, the safety planning, and then documentation. I teach them how to document, especially with like stalking, if somebody's following, which I was going to talk a little bit about tech safety, but tech safety is really big right now, technology safety with stalking and everything. They're not doing, stalking is not really anymore sitting outside people's houses and watching them. It's more through your phones and things like that, and then they can swipe your phone. Like they can get on, I had one girl go through 3 Google numbers before I gave her the RFDI case and stuff, but they'll get in there and swipe your phone, and you get all of your documentation on what they've been doing to you and stuff. That's happening a lot. But anyway, and then documentation on children, and like how to use the parenting app and things like that, so that they don't have to talk with their abusers. They can only communicate through that app and stuff like that. Self-care is really important with domestic violence too, which people think that's kind of weird, but we do have our self-care times in my meetings, which in CAPE we did it too all the time. But yeah, self-care is important because they're not used to taking any time for themselves.
And it has to do with self-esteem. Also.
Yeah, right. It builds self-esteem, but it also has like expression too. You use the other side of your brain and all that kind of business. So it's kind of artsy stuff too. Yeah, I wish you'd like that. And then I do a lot of with education. So with clients, like educate them about the difference between an ex parte and an order of protection and how all that works. And I do go with them over to the courthouse and help them fill out all that stuff too. Education on how legal aid works, on getting their health insurance and all that. And I had one lady say one time that I gave her health insurance. I'm like, I didn't get you health insurance. But they say sometimes the weirdest things. Like, I didn't get you health insurance. Anyway, yeah, I help them apply for it and all that. And then, let's see. And I always insist on professional counseling. And I'll listen. I can't make them do it, but I listen and try to hear when they're going to say, like my counselor said, or something like that. And if I don't hear it, then I'll say, hey, I haven't heard anything. Have you got a counselor yet? And I make them, that's one of the things they have to do.
And is most of that counseling through the counseling center here, or
Our counseling
what
center's
used to be
been,
Palm Tree, or?
Community Counseling Center is our counseling center,
Your part-
basically.
yes,
Yeah,
okay.
because most of the people that I deal with don't really have money because they're leaving their abuser, who is usually isolated them so much that they're not allowed to have a job usually. I see that a whole lot. So if they don't have a job, they don't have an income. So a lot of times they go to community counseling because that's on a sliding scale.
That suggests that you also probably hook them up with the Division of Family Services and.
That's through the SNAP and all that
Yes,
stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
I've got all that in my phone and I can shoot them an email that has, I've kind of written up my own emails that are my own documents that kind of say how to do stuff step by step.
Yes.
So they can go to this page and then click that. I mean, it's very detailed so that they can walk through it and then I'm always there.
Yeah.
So I always answer my phone 24/7 and they can call me anytime they want. And like, I think Iris was saying earlier, they can depend on me because I always answer the phone, but I don't call them. So the thing is they can depend on me and I will be there for them, but I'm not going to chase them down for them to recover from domestic violence. They have to make a choice every time they call me that they're going to continue to break free and live violence free. I'm not going to run after them and have them do stuff. They have to do everything on their own. They have to make the choice. They have to make the moves. They have to make the decisions. And of course that sounds easy, but for them it is not. So I'll lay out things that I've seen happen and I'll tell them I've seen these things and these are possibilities that you could choose from, but they have to choose which thing they want and they have to make the phone call. I'm not ever going to make a phone call for anybody. I can never say I do anything wrong because I don't ever do anything. I just offer them things. So, and then we've got, I do, also with education, I got tech safety on there, which that's a big issue, is talking to them about that. And then,
And that's protecting your accounts that are on your phone and that kind of stuff.
and stalking and,
Getting your phone number changed and how you deal with that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I was going to talk about my education too, but I did take NTAB, had a training up with the St. Louis Metropolitan Police Department, and I did take that in February. That was very informative, and they talked about bots and all kinds of stuff and how they can get in there, and so it was very good. And with our breakaway, I went with the police department where they were breaking off how to do all that stuff, and it was like amazing. Yeah, I had St. Louis police on either side of me, and I'm like, wow. Yeah, they talked about how they break down the vehicles to look for they used to have air tags, but now they got little slip things that they can put in their vehicles now to track you. Yeah, your abusers can and stuff, and how they can, I mean, they were talking about how they tear apart cars looking for them and stuff. It was amazing. It's a lot going on. But with education with the public, I do like fairs like the Women's Health Fair and job fairs and stuff like that. And then flyers, which I didn't bring my flyer, but I've also done the don't keep silent about domestic violence. I don't know if you remember, there's a woman like this. I don't know if you remember that one. And then the digital business card, which is this.
Yeah.
And then myself, I'm doing the CIT training, which is 5 Wednesdays in a row. It's a 40-hour training. And then I've got my initial training, which was the 40-hour Advocates Academy is what they call it. There's no certification for advocates in Missouri. So I've got that, and then they've got some confidentiality trainings and some other basic trainings that they want their advocates to do. Missouri doesn't have certifications, but they have standards. There's no laws on it like a nurse has a nursing license. There's no laws like that, but they have standards, and the coalition sets those standards. Yeah. And so to be affiliate members, we have to have those standards met, and then they observe that we have those standards.
Yeah.
So anyway. And then the Missouri Office of Prosecuting Services, I have taken quite a few of their trainings, and the most recent ones were like talking with children about abuse, which I thought was talking to children about abuse, but it actually was more about CASA and the foster system and things like that, but it was very informative too. And then I did the precursor to murder, which the sentence that I learned the most about that was if you're choked at any time, you're 800% more likely to die at your abuser's hand from anything. If you're choked one time. Isn't that amazing?
It's terrifying. And everything that you said, I love that you've talked about the services that you can provide, but the whole idea of women, and it's mostly women, being victims is a terrifying thing. And one of the things that I wonder about is, how did we get here? What is happening in our society that makes anybody think that it's okay to either physically or emotionally abuse a person who is supposed to be your partner, or who is at least supposed to be your girlfriend?
Well, I think abuse has been around forever.
It has.
I don't know if it's any worse or better nowadays than it is, but I think I'd like to do more education with like teens and stuff so they can identify what we call red flags. You know, if whoever wants to date them, if they're overcompensating or things like that, but also talk to the parents about, instead of saying you can't date that boy or girl, instead of saying that, just say, oh, you know, I have these plans for you, and aren't you thinking about going to college, and you're going to do this when you grow up, and promote be the positive side of what you want them to do in the future, instead of saying you can't do that, you know. And there's different parenting techniques to raise their self-esteem, instead of going on the negative side, just kind of ignore who they're dating and go more on the positive. But anyway, if we could do more stuff like that, and then also if we can catch that behavior when they're dating and young in their teenage years, but also when you're new in a relationship, if they're doing something that you don't like, you know, if somebody's insulting you or putting you down a little bit, identify those right away, because before you get into an abusive relationship, you know that those things are wrong. But when you're into it, the further you get into it, the more you're likely not to be alerted to those things. But when you're alerted,
to blame yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
But when you're alerted to them early in a relationship, if you bring it up to your partner and say, hey, I don't like it when you do that, and they don't change or they ignore you, then you can go to your friend, you can go to your pastor, you can go, you know, your friend can go to her partner, and the two guys can have a conversation. And, you know, the friend can say, why do you do that to Susie? You know, Susie don't like being treated like that. I wouldn't like it either. Stop doing that. Sometimes just, you know, a male friend telling another male friend, what? You're stupid doing that to your, you know, wife, and she does this, you know, she's great to do this, or sometimes just some peer correction is what I'm trying to say.
That's right into my next question, which is we have a much greater understanding of maybe how to prepare young women so that if they find themselves in a situation that's an abusive situation, they maybe know what to do, and they maybe can get help of some kind. What are we teaching those boys? Okay, no expletive there. What are we teaching the boys about how to treat women? Are we doing any of that?
I don't know.
I don't know.
I mean, we should hit standards on men and women, how we should treat each other.
Yeah.
Just raising good kids, you know, be a kind human, you know.
I think,
And empathy. We have to teach empathy.
Isn't there gatherings I've read where, I don't know if it was in older boys, where they were discussing things like that? But I don't remember
not
where I
being
read
abusive or being
it, how
abusive.
to treat your girlfriend. You know, that you should be respectful to her like you would your mother or your grandmother or.
I think society as a
think-
whole, I personally, this is not domestic violence, but I personally feel like the family breaking down like it has
Oh, yeah.
over the last generations, I think that's contributed to it a lot because,
They might
You
see
just-
things and think it's okay.
well, you
Yeah.
just have so many subdivisions, like you can have 2 or 3 different step families in one family and you don't have the continuity, you know,
Right.
and sometimes with those steps, you have parents talking bad about other parents and you have a lot of slang and down talking about other people. And I think you don't have the family unit being as strong and talking nice about each other. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just think that
Except that I'm going to take you back to what you said just a few minutes ago, which is this has always been a problem.
no, it's always been a problem. Yeah.
Yeah.
But I just think that, I don't know. I think it's harder for kids now because they have so many
Divorce.
steps and, you know, like I have a half sister and a stepsister and they all have different dads and sometimes the families aren't even really together very often because they have different weekends that they get different kids. And I just think it's hard on kids nowadays. I'm not saying that's leading to abuse. That's what I said.
Yeah.
It's not domestic. It's my personal feeling that it's harder on kids now. It's not domestic
Yeah.
violence.
I'm going to insert my opinion,
Okay, here we go.
which has to do with the culture
Uh-huh.
in which young people are growing up nowadays and the level of violence and the level of disrespect in virtually all areas of our society nowadays. People aren't taught to be nice anymore. And a lot of it has to do with media, the kinds of things that kids, just by carrying a phone around with them, can be exposed to. And you already know this, you don't. I'm a super liberal person, okay? I'm really not in favor of much censorship or
Yeah.
that kind of thing. But I think that we're in dangerous territory when one of the major problems we face is primarily men beating up on the women that they live with. There's something wrong here, you know? And we better start figuring out.
And it's not
Yeah.
every family doesn't do it though. It's not. It's not that prevalent.
No, it's not every family, but you know, one is too many.
Yeah. One is too many, but it's not.
Yeah.
It's not that prevalent. But yeah, just to bring attention to it and stuff is what I'm trying to do. But yeah, no, it is. I think
And it's reversed too. The women are abusing men.
Yeah, women do abuse men, and I have helped. I think I'm up to 5 guys now that I've done referrals on, and I have talked to other domestic violence people, and they actually are uncomfortable talking to their guys because they don't feel like it's their niche. But I have no problem talking to guys because. I mean, it's peer counseling, and it's all the same thing. It's power and control. When there's power
Yes, it
and control
is.
in there, I mean, but I haven't done a lot of peer counseling with them. I haven't been in depth with them, but I
Well,
do
that's-
referrals and stuff.
there are not as many of
Yeah,
them.
but I mean,
You know?
I haven't counseled them like a lot because usually but I always say my first girl, and she does still contacts me, but I might have a client and they might not talk to me for a year or 2. I've been doing this coming up on 9 years,
Yeah.
and they'll call me like 2 or 3 years later, you know, and because it's hard to stay out of that domestic violence, to not go back into that. So I still they'll call me back, you know, years later, or I'll work with them a lot, very intensely for months or whatever, and then I might not hear from them for 6 months or something.
And another thing too, after they divorce one, they seem to always pick up another one.
Right, that's why I always tell them to call me back, and I don't ever judge them. There's no judgment here. That's why I said before with Courtney, she said that she can always come and talk to me because she knows what her family's going to tell her, which they know I like them. But
Yeah.
anyway, yeah, because that's the way they feel very judged by other people. But my door is always open, and no matter what they do, they know that they can come back to me, even if they make me mad, which I'm very honest with them. If they make me mad, I tell them. Yeah. Because we're all human. They can make me mad too.
We're very fortunate to have you in this community
Well, thank you.
because we have the problem here.
Well, every place has
every
a
town
problem.
has, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I am very close to having the board again. But yeah, there is some resistance to having the board, to having a shelter in town, but we will get the shelter in town and we will have a place for people to go. And once we get the shelter, we can do more education and things like that, so.
Where
that'll
does
be good.
funding for something like that come from?
Shoot, I should have, got my percentages correct, but,
Just, what,
well,
I mean,
there's,
sources are.
yeah, so there's the federal grants and everything that are out there, and then, but those.
And they are
those
still out there?
They're still out there, but they've been cut. So when I go to those regional meetings, we talk about stuff like that, and they were cut. I don't remember how much, but anyway, way back when Parsons was our governor, he gave us back 25% of what was cut from, I don't know, back when he was our governor. But the United Way, they got cut on domestic violence like 50%. Maybe 6 months ago, they got the final word that they cut domestic violence, what they were giving to shelters, like 50%. That's big.
Yes.
But you get like 10% because you're a 501c3, and I forgot the percent you get from Missouri income tax. I can look it up real fast, maybe. But you get a large percent back on Missouri income tax for donations to domestic violence shelters. And if you don't use it all 1 year, it carries for 5 years.
How can people make contributions or help you?
I don't really spend that much money. And I just had the rally. But yeah, if they want to make contributions, our treasurer is Jenny Mueller, who's the executive director at the
Health
county
Department.
health. And they can make donations there to the community services forum, and in the memo put domestic violence.
Okay.
But I don't want to turn away contributions, but right now I'm fine, because I don't spend that much
Okay.
money. But I guess I shouldn't turn it down, because when we get the shelter, we'll need more money, but.
Yes.
So I don't think they could see that when Charlie pulled it up, if you want to
Oh,
kind
that's
of
okay.
go over those points maybe.
Sure.
We could probably ask Charlie to post this on the CCTV Facebook page so that people could see it there.
Yeah. Well, domestic violence has a lot of wheels. We would be lost without our wheels. So I was just thinking that's what I could do tonight, was show you some of our wheels. We've got one on bullying, which is power and control, which is our main one. But we've also got one, abuse for when you're later in life. It talks about threats and financial exploits, using privileges, isolating, using family members, ridicules and personal cultural values, and denies access to spiritual traditions and events, and targets vulnerability and neglects them. And then this one here is about people with disabilities in partner relationships. So if your partner has a disability, and this talks about coercion and threats, threatens to leave and take the children, and says they kill the partner and the children or the pets. Pets are used big time in domestic violence, because you love your pet, and so they'll hurt the pet. And you'd almost rather, abuse victims would rather be hurt than someone hurt their pet, or they would rather be hurt than have their kids be hurt. So kids are used as a tool, and a pet is used as a tool. So anyway, we have this for disabilities, and then we also have this power and control wheel for people with disabilities and their caregivers. So even a caregiver, which people with disabilities are more likely to be abused than a person without disabilities. And then this one's a gay, lesbian, bisexual, and trans power and control wheel. I'm telling you, we have them for everything. And then this is an immigrant power and control wheel. So it just breaks it down into specifically how this type of person category uses that those characteristics to abuse.
We didn't really talk about, and maybe you don't get those kinds of cases,
Like that.
about domestic elderly abuse, because
Yeah.
there are families in which that can be
Right.
an issue.
Yeah, that's what one of these was about, people with disabilities, or the elder abuse one. That was the one I was reading off of first.
I think sometimes
So-
when we think of elder abuse, we think of really bad nursing homes or something
Yeah.
like that. It's also an issue in
Yeah, that's
families.
the elder abuse. The MOPS, the Missouri Office of Prosecuting Services, Catherine Veneer, I like her, she likes me. But anyway, she is doing one now, is how they took our truck and our house and all of our life savings and what we did about it or something is the name of her new training. But that's coming up, I think, next month. So, but she does prosecution. She educates prosecutors all the way down to advocates. And we had her in town January 20th or something like that, 28th here in town. So she's an excellent speaker. But anyway,
Now, where are these talks at, where people can go to hear them, or is it just
What
to
talks?
the person? I mean, do you ever have public talks, I guess is what I'm
no, this is
wondering.
with you
It's
guys.
just,
I do health fairs, but now I will if I get invited somewhere.
So like the Women's Club could invite you to come and speak.
Yeah, I've talked there
You've been
before,
there
and I've
before,
talked at the Lions Club. I've done county health before, so yeah, I can't think offhand, but yeah, if you invite me, and I would like to go like to even somebody's living room and talk with their friends about like teenagers and stuff. Yeah, and I've had somebody from the school, early elementary. I did the daycare workers, and she was wanting me to come back and do daycare workers again because I did one on the child abuse. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And the Life Center over in Farmington, I haven't done that one yet, but they asked me to come over.
that
and do
might
it
be
in
a good
service.
place to talk to the boys and girls about how to treat each other respectful when
Yeah,
you're dating and all that through the schools.
yeah. I don't know if I'm skilled enough to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I could talk to the parents about it, but I don't know. The kids, they might give me a hard time.
You're doing a very complicated, very difficult job.
It's a very hard subject, and when I did we didn't really talk about the rally car show, which I don't know how much time I
Yeah,
have
you
left.
better get busy.
Yes.
But
You only have like 7 minutes.
you know I can talk fast at the end. I did that before.
Yes.
But the rally car show was really good. It was a hot weekend, but temperature wise, but the cars were hot too, the vehicles. And we had the trophies were made from engine parts and they're welded together. If you go to the rally car show Facebook page, you can see some awesome videos. Our videos were very popular. You can watch them making some of the trophies, and then I put the flyer comes to life. But our community really supported us very well. I mean, I was just everywhere I asked for donations. We had donors. We had Ace Hardware, Mississippi Lime, and the Fun Farm were donors. And then the Trolley was a sponsor, and I'm going to forget people now. Dunsey Communications 93.1 was a sponsor. The city was a sponsor. So everybody just, everywhere I asked, they just gave. I didn't have to ask twice. Mimi's, Sarah's ice cream shop, the Do It Center, O'Reilly's and AutoZone. I'm trying to think who else. Anyway, it was a wonderful event. Everybody had a really good time that was there. St. John Towing donated 150 ices from Luna's Ice. So it just was, everybody had fun that went. But what got us on that topic? Oh, the people who came for the cause. So we had, was it 42% came between 45 and 60 miles, and 14% came 60 miles or further. Yeah, so 28% came from St. John City and County, but most of them came from further away, and they came for the cause. And one of them talked to me, and she was a victim, so she came just to put her car in because she was a victim. Like, and our winner, we had one from Baldwin, or Webster Grove, one from Webster Groves, but the one that got the longest ride, which is the furthest away, the longest ride, she won from DeSoto. I'm like, how did that work? And she's on the outskirts of DeSoto, but the miles they drove, she drove the most miles.
Oh, my.
So that's how she won. Because I'm like, how did DeSoto win when there's one coming from Webster Groves? So anyway, everybody had a good time. So my volunteers are so enthusiastic. I was tired. I wanted to go home, but they're like, we got to do this next year. And they got all these plans for next year. And then I had a couple of big sponsors that want to do it again next year. And I'm like, okay, we'll do it again next year.
Very good. Yeah, we
Well,
have,
you'll come back next year and tell us about it in advance.
Yes.
So,
It was a lot of fun. Everybody had fun. The trolley was running its thing, and everybody was just really, it was a good day. It was a good day. Yeah, so
Very
anyway,
good.
we're thinking about moving it to that Austin Moses. Is that Moses
Moses
Austin?
Austin,
Moses Austin Park, because
Yeah.
it's been hot 2 years in a row. It's shaded down there.
Yeah,
It is. It is.
So-
That's a good space.
Yeah,
It
I
is.
talked to Jamie a little bit about it, so we might move it down there just because it's not so hot.
that would be nice down there.
Yeah, but I think that's it. Did I talk enough?
You did great. You really
Iris
did.
knows me. She knows I can talk.
I don't know if Hoffman, if Terry and those guys would let you use their yard. I think at one time, wasn't there a car show there at one time too?
I don't know. I'd have
there
to
was,
ask.
yeah.
Yeah. Well, we got to get. I don't have my weekend. I did say something to Aaron about maybe doing it the same weekend of Oktoberfest, and then kind of like Jerdafet has the car show. We could do one with Oktoberfest. We'd just be a little bit further down the road, and
Cars always draw people.
yeah.
They do.
We had some awesome ones too because it came from so far away. We had some different ones that usually don't come to St. John, but yeah, they came for the cause first, and then the trophies, and then the awesome prizes. We had some great prizes. We did.
Yeah.
I'm going to make sure that we give this phone number
Oh yeah.
again. Okay.
And it's a Gmail number, so you can give any name when they ask for your name. You can give any name you want.
Okay.
If you just want to chat, and we can talk about whatever you have questions about.
It's 573-880-5540. I'm going to repeat it again. 573-880-5540. And I assume that people who maybe want to help out can contact you through that number, or is this just the hotline kind of number?
And they can,
They can contact me through that number,
Okay.
definitely.
Kathy, tell them they can, he's got it up.
Yes, it's up.
Talk about it.
Yeah.
That's the QR code to my digital business card, and when you get on there, you can either accept it or not. But if you accept it, you can change the title of it to whatever name you want to, and then it can be hidden in your contacts. But the first few ones are domestic violence websites, and then after that, it goes into our city and county websites like police and hospital and things like that. And then there's some trainings in there that I've done that are on there, and some of my sponsors are at the very end.
573-880-5540. We're lucky to have you.
Yep. And it's October's Domestic Violence Month,
It is.
bringing awareness to it.
Hopefully someday we won't need that.
Yeah, hopefully not.
Hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thank you very much, Kathy, for coming on.
Yeah.
And you're always
Thanks.
interesting. So
thank you.
Now he's putting up the
Yes, very
domestic
good.
violence. Yeah.
And we'll see everybody in 2 weeks.
Yep.
And I want to
Maybe.
remind people, you can come and sit in the audience. We would love to have people come and sit in the audience. So lots of empty chairs.
There are.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
And I think we're
I think
finished
that's it for tonight.
Yeah. We'll say goodbye to everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Yeah.